So can I start?
Okay, ma'am.
Yeah. Good afternoon, all of you. Today's session, what we are going to see the next session, that is from 11:45 onwards. Actually, it's almost 11:55. Is regarding the reinforcement algorithm. Most of you are familiar with the reinforcement algorithm, which is basically a prediction-based machine learning algorithm, which helps us to choose a particular action based on the reward. So the basic algorithm is going to be explained with one or two episodes. The implementation of temporal difference learning, which is a form of um, reinforcement learning, is going to be taken up. And another implementation of reinforcement learning is the SARSA algorithm, which is having a higher edge over the TD, and that algorithm will also be explained in the session. So basically, we are going to have reinforcement learning as the major focus, and finally, the last part I will be discussing about artificial intelligence based technique, namely fuzzy. Maybe you have discussed about it during your session yesterday. I will just take up on a peripheral note and show the implementation or demo, just show some examples of the outputs that we have got through the multi-robotic path planning using fuzzy, which is one of the simplest implementations that we have in robotics. So, move on to my presentation. We have been at this point, we have been discussing A-star and Dijkstra. We are yet to discuss reinforcement learning and multi-robotic systems. We are going to discuss basically based on fuzzy. And CNN and applications are just a part of my future work. I have not included them for the presentation. Some experience on CNN has been got. I have not shared those experiences because CNN by itself is a algorithm which needs to be dealt in separately with a lot of time and understanding. So first and foremost, let us go on to the various differences between A-star, Dijkstra, and the TD algorithm. Are more algorithms required? Are we not sufficient with the algorithms that we have? Do we require more? And in that context, we are going in for the differences between A-star, Dijkstra, and the temporal difference algorithm. So if you go in for the A-star, you would see that Dijkstra is simple compared to A-star. The idea was already mentioned. You have f of n is going to be equal to g of n, whereas in Dijkstra you would see there is the heuristic function which gives some weights to the nodes or which gives no weights to the grids, so that you can ask it to follow a diagonal path or a path based on your choice and based on the target that is there for the row. However, one of the drawbacks of Dijkstra is it is going to be slow because it is going to make use of the greedy best first search type of algorithm. As a result, generally what is observed is that Dijkstra is slow in its implementation. As a result, can we conclude that between Dijkstra and A-star, we could have used A-star because A-star is faster. However, as you can see, we mentioned that Dijkstra is actually a worst situation of A-star in the sense that though A-star can be implemented easily without the edge of n, then that becomes Dijkstra. That is what we have understood. And simplicity-based Dijkstra is simpler than A-star. Moving on to the TD, which is temporal difference learning. The temporal difference learning is the fastest because if you discuss about the performance indices, I would say that time is a major criteria because most of the robotics applications require execution in minimum time, and as a result, TD is an algorithm which could be implemented in the least time. And it is basically based on a mathematical equation, as you could see in the case of A star. It states the Q function needs to be determined. The Q function is based on the possible value of the reward of state versus action, along with the next state versus action, maximum state versus action. We will be explaining what is this maximum, followed by a gamma parameter, which is a weight. Generally, the value of gamma is between 0 and 1. It could be other values. Usually, I prefer to choose the value of gamma as 0.8 because it is on the higher side and we are likely to get results in a better manner. However, sometimes the basic TD algorithm may converge to a wrong solution as it is less stable. So this is one of the major drawbacks of the TD algorithm, that it may converge to the wrong solution. So if you go in for the results and implement all the three algorithms specifically on the software platform, you would see that in some specific cases, especially in some cases where you increase the number of obstacles, especially if they are linear, TD has got some issues in converging. So this is one of the drawbacks. However, it has a better form of algorithm, namely the SARSA algorithm. SARSA, term, state, state, action, reward. State action is the algorithm that we would like to go on to, and this algorithm is supposed to be giving us better results than the basic TD algorithm. So this is what we have for the differences, and generally the choice is naturally over TD except for some wrong convergent solutions. So basically we have understood that TD has got an equation. What is its higher hierarchy, namely the reinforcement learning, of which it is a part, as you could have seen from the first line of the graph. So you would see that the basic reinforcement learning is actually a type of machine learning, and it is also a branch of artificial intelligence. It is classified in both regions, both as a machine learning area as well as a region of AI. And what we generally see in reinforcement learning is we generally have an agent. The agent tries to learn as per the environment. Almost reinforcement learning, I would give an analogy to our human learning. Our skin is the best example for the reinforcement learning example, or a human body is the best example for the reinforcement learning, which easily adapts to various climates. Like when we are in a very hot region, though we sweat a lot, our body is able to maintain it. When we are in a very cold region also, we are able to manage it. So this is one of the major advantages of the reinforcement learning, and we generally see that the best behavior is what is going to be generally got from the machines, and it enables us to get the best performance also. And as you can see, another feature of the reinforcement learning is another terminology called as reward. When we say reward, this particular reward is a basic problem which is going to be something which attracts all of us. When we hear that there is a reward, and the next question that comes to our mind is how much is the reward? And our mind tries to go to a place where we get more rewards, be it monetary, be it academic, wherever it is, this is what we try to do. And what the robo or the agent has to do is, it has to learn from the system, and this is called as a reinforcement signal. So once we are done with the basic idea of the reward, how are we going to give the reward? This is where the basic problem of TD comes in, wherein we generally assign trial and error values, and usually our destination or the goal or the target is assigned the maximum reward, reaching it through the best possible path could be given a better value or a higher reward. So the first terminology that is generally used in the reinforcement learning is a reward, which is going to be assigned to the robot based on its behavior. And in case we are going in for a wrong action, should we not also give some punishment and push it back to its current state? This is also another thing which is taken up in reinforcement learning. Usually, how we could avoid this also is a problem that we will be discussing in the algorithm that I'm trying to explain to you, in the sense, instead of punishing, a punishing act is something which we may not like because we know the drawbacks of punishing. So how could we better make the system? So instead of going for a punishing for a wrong action, what we could do is we could go in for selecting the best action based on the current state, or we could try to avoid wrong actions. And one of the examples of a wrong action in a robotic movement is going to be the backward movement of the robot, whereby the robot is likely to move away from the goal or the destination. And this is something seriously we will not be interested to achieve. Next, we go on to what is basically the Q-learning task. When we ask what is basically the Q-learning task, we are going to answer with three particular terms. The first term is the state, the next term is the action, and naturally every action is good, state come action is going to give a reward. In the previous session, previous slide, we had already discussed that there could be a reward for any action, and that reward is not coming simply. It is based on a particular state which is going to be followed by the robot. So how is it going to happen? So as you can see, it is again an agent come environmental modeling, wherein based on the environment, the state is detected, the agent sees what should be the action suggested, and based on the action, the environment suggests what would be the reward. So if you just basically see, the state is frequently going to be called by S. The action that is going to be taken by the agent after reading the environment and after reading the state is going to be called as action. And the final reward that the environment gives for the particular action is going to be denoted as R. So these are the three terminologies which we will be using in our expression for the Q-learning. So we have a case wherein we would like to go in with state, action, and reward. This is one of the major thoughts which comes in the Q-learning scenario, wherein we need to detect the state, come up with an action, and finally allow the reward. So if you think of this modeling as an example that could be taken up in state diagram, most of the faculty may be from the ECE background, wherein most of you, or EEE background, where most of you might have handled digital electronics, wherein we have the basic state diagram. It's almost similar. The various states are represented by circles, and the action from one state to the next state is represented by the A, which is A0, A1, etc. And the reward is also assigned based on the particular action. Sometimes, since S2 is closer, suppose you call this as a destination, since S2 is closer to the destination, we may have R1 to be generally greater than R0. So what is going to be our aim? As it has been mentioned, our aim is to maximize a condition such that it reaches the goal. And if we are going to have this reward to be more than this, definitely we know what is going to happen. The agent is trying to move backward, which is not something which we are expecting, as we want the robot to move towards its destination. So if we are going to ask the robot to choose actions such that the particular expression, namely the reward plus gamma of the reward, is going to keep on maximizing. And I mentioned that gamma is a learning parameter which is similar to the learning parameters used in most of the software algorithms. It has generally a value which is going to be between 0 and 1. So having understood that we need a state, we need an action, We need a state, we need an action, and this action is going to be followed by a reward. This is what the algorithm intends to do. So if instead of saying that we will be punishing a wrong action, we would say that if we are deviating from the actual action or an action which is tending to maximize our destination, we may try to give a negative reward or try to reduce the value of the reward, thereby trying to see that the choice of the action is going to be only such that it tries to implement a value which is going to go towards the destination. So this is basically the Q-learning task which is used in any reinforcement algorithm, be it let it be temporal difference learning, let it be SARSA or any other derivative thereof. So here we have an example of a Q-learning task which is going to give us an example wherein we will try to understand the example by going in for a problem which is going to describe how we can best understand this particular problem of basic Q-learning. So here we have around 5 rooms. Out of these 5 rooms, we have the rooms numbered as A, B, C, D and E. And we could see that our destination or our target or our goal, as you could see, is to reach outside these rooms. So our environment is simple. It is like a room wherein we go a step further than the simple grid which was implemented in a single room to a room-wise movement of the robot. Thereby, we start from room A, we have room B, we have room C, we have room D, we have room E. So, our target is going to be to reach the goal, which is going to be outside the room, which is going to be the major idea. So, what is it that we are going to intend to do? Let us assume that we are going to start from room A. From room A, we may move on to room B. We may move on from room B, possibly to either room F or to room C or to room D. We need to see whether the pathways are available for this. And based on this, we are going to try understanding how can we have the orientation of the environment to be suited such that we can apply this Q-learning algorithm to a room-based algorithm. So let us move on to see how that can be done. So as I have mentioned, our idea is to get a person is perhaps trapped in a room and the person needs to move out of the room. What could be the easiest way or the fastest way for him to move out? Can he just jump out of A? That is one possibility. Another one, provided there is an outlet, or he may have to come out from B, and from B he can move into outside. From A, he may have to move into E. From E, he may have to move into D. And from B, he may have to move into the outside. This may be one of the options. There are several options. We could even implement A star in this and see how this could be applied. So what is basically going to be the case is that we need to formulate a table. This table is based on idea of the reward between the various rooms. So when it goes between room A and room A, we say the reward is A. So we have considered the rooms as state diagrams. So across rooms, we are going to keep them as 0. So A is 0. From B to B, we have kept it again as 0. From C to C, we have kept it as 0. D to D, again we have retained it as 0. E to E also, because we don't want it to be lying there. So naturally, the first thing is we don't want any redundant action to be there, which means if it is in a particular state, we do not want that particular agent, or we don't want to be locked up in a room forever if at all we are locked up. Let us hope such a scenario doesn't turn up. But in case such a scenario comes, then we have a possibility that we lie in the room forever unless somebody comes and helps us out. So this is a case which we would like to avoid. Thereby, we are remaining in the same state, which means B to B or B to C, C to C or D to D or E to E or F to F as 0. So this is going to be our first thought when we are going to generally keep the matrix, or it is called as the Q table or the update rule. So everywhere we are retaining it as 0. Initially, naturally, we are going to keep movements across rooms also as all zeros, which means if A is going to move to B, there also we have assigned if A is going to move to B, then also we have assigned it 0. If A is going to move to C, still 0. D, E, and F also it is going to be the same. So if B is going to move to A, still we have retained. That's where I said we are trying to initialize all the values of all the entries to be 0 to start with. As we do in most of the software algorithms, we initialize all the values to 0 unless we take some examples of some simple algorithms like genetic, where we do take some seed as the initial value for the sake of convergence. So what we do is going to be, we will be applying from here on the Q table update rule, which basically states that Q of S comma A, that is state comma action, is going to be the reward of the state action plus gamma. Gamma is a factor which we could choose between 0 to 1. We have discussed that in our first case. And if we are going to choose that between 0 to 1, we could again take all other states which are possible from the present state. Out of that, whichever is the maximum value between state and action, the reward, that we will take it, multiply it with gamma, and the next state and action will be the initial reward plus what we have calculated with the update expression. So basically, what we have is that the update expression is what is mentioned in this particular stage. So basically, we have the Q table, then we move on to the update rule, which tells us that how are we going to go on for the next state. So the next state has become defined in this specific manner. It starts from the various states and actions which are possible, and we will take the maximum state and action. Let us see how that is going to happen. How are we going to consider various states and all the respective actions and their respective rewards and consider the maximum example? So I already mentioned that gamma is the learning parameter. It could be any value between 0 to 1. Preferably a better solution is generally got when it is 0.8. So here we are going to now consider an example wherein we are now going to form initially the reward matrix. So how are we going to formulate the reward matrix? Initially we had kept all as zeros, is it right? So next let us try to keep some values which are going to be values that are going to be possible. So the first value that comes to us is our goal is to reach outside. So from B, we would like to jump off. There is a pathway here. Since there is a pathway, we would like to give a reward of a very high value, and that high value we have assigned here as 100. So this is one particular example where we have tried to give B as a very high value. Another part which we could have is if it is between F and F, initially we said we are going to keep it as 0, but since it is the final goal, we could keep this value alone as 100. And if you see from room E, there is a pathway which tells us that we can go out. So maybe we can come out of this. This value also could be 100. So here again you have 100. So we have got 3 entries of 100 in this particular example, wherein one is from B to E, which is going to be this particular case, B to E, sorry, B to F. The second case is going to be from E to F, that is going to be the second case, which is going to be another example, which is mentioned here. So this is going to be our second case where we have taken from E to F. And if our agent, which here the agent actually refers to the robot, In Q-learning terminology, we generally use it for the term as agent. If the robo is here itself, then our value remains as 100. That's exactly what we have tried to do. If in case the robo is initially at the destination itself, then it is fine. We don't have to do anything. As we have seen in A star and Dijkstra, if it has reached the destination, we need not proceed with the algorithm. Or that is a major terminating case for our algorithm. So that we could assign it to 0. So we have assigned 0 to a location of the robo if it were in the destination itself and given that value also as 100. That is the meaning of the last entry as 100. Then we have given certain places zeros, which means can we move from A to E. That particular case we have given it as 0. Then from B to D we have kept it as 0 because it will make it to move backward, and again it is going to make its path long because better from B to D it can jump out. Similarly, from so many other options from D also have been given 0. For example, if it tries to move from D to B, that has been assigned 0, as you can see here. And the movement of D to C also has been assigned 0 because please understand, if it enters C, it is likely to be trapped. There is no option for us to move out. Similarly, if we have a case where we would have a movement of P to E, that also is here given as 0, but we will at later stage see that it will be given a slight reward. As we had seen in the initial case, we had even given if the robo is at FF, that also we had given it as 0. Similarly, now we have given DE also as 0. Next, moving on to the movement of E. From E to A, we have given it as 0. Please remember, if it moves from E to A, it's likely to be trapped, and perhaps there is no other possibility than to avoid this action or the state, and as a result, this action is to be avoided always. So we have to give it 0. There is no thought of changing its value. Similarly, if we move from E to D, that also is going to be still a longer path because if it moves to C, again it's likely to be long. Unless it moves to B, it is not going to try escaping. So this is some understanding of this particular algorithm, and once we are done with this algorithm, we need to go in for what is going to be the basic Q-learning algorithm. We have a state diagram which tells us about the matrix R, which represents the reward, and our idea is to find the minimum path by going in with each stage of the matrix, and we will consider some scenarios of such a case. And the first thing that we would like to do is set gamma to a certain value. I mentioned to you that preferably the value of gamma that I would like to set is going to be 0.8. Please note, it is not a hard and fast rule. I prefer it because in most of the cases, the algorithm seems to be converging better at 0.8 rather than other values of gamma. And we need to set the initial value of the reward matrix, which we have done just now, to be first zeros, then we can keep on upgrading based on the state in which the agent moves or the robo moves. Once we are done with it, as has been mentioned here, we are initializing the Q matrix as 0 matrix. That was what we saw as the first case, and for each case, we will consider a random initial state. Please note, it is this random initial state which may end up in a worst execution state, which we have discussed is possible in TD learning, wherein, if you might recall in our previous example, we had said if the robo moves to A, it gets trapped there and there is no escape from that. That is almost a similar case that is appearing if we choose a random initial state. Sometimes we are lucky in the choice of this random initial state, and we may reach a position which may be beneficial to us. So let us see whether we have reached the goal state and keep on going up along the various possible actions for the present state. So once we are done with it, let us go on to the next state using this particular possible action and get the maximum value of Q for all the possible actions that are possible. Let us calculate the expression and keep on taking the present state as the next state and continue till we reach the goal. This is the basic algorithm that we have. So once we are done with it, this was basically the algorithm format, and we will generally have values. As you see here, you could see if it is the value of gamma, which is close to zero, may not be a good solution because we may be considering only an immediate reward. So better we should have a value which is going to be close to 1, then it will be too much dependent on future reward. So that's why I said you may have values in between. Maybe some of you are also having a thought, why not have a value between 0.5? Yes, 0.5 or zero point 0.6 also has been attempted at, but what has been observed when we try these 0.5 and 0.6 is that sometimes the algorithm gets stuck up in some solutions. Maybe it is also based on some of the random initial state that we are going to consider. So again, going back to our room example and trying to get understanding of the various room locations and the values of matrices, let us try to say that in matrix, if the agent is in room B, it has a possibility to go to state B, or it has a possibility to go to state room B, it has a possibility to go to state B, or it has a possibility to state F. Here is where we have the random play. Let us assume that we are going to choose state F. If we are choosing state F, we are lucky. If we are choosing state B, we need to go for one more stage. And in that one more stage, if we try to go from D to C, we are likely to be lost. It is this particular example that we have to consider as a good random choice, wherein if we are in state B, the best choice would be to go to room F, and if we choose the state as F, we will be getting the value as we have various possibilities. So let us go on with our action. So we are in state B, we need to reach F. This is how that example is given for the expression. State represents the states of B, C, etc. Action is we need to reach F. So all the actions will be to reach F, and the reward will be between B to F. What will be the reward? And gamma is the value that we have assigned. Here we could see it is 0.8, and the various states, I think this particular expression was not clear when we had introduced it in the previous slides. So let us go on to this expression in a slightly deeper fashion. So what is this expression going to tell you? From room B, what are the possibilities that we have? So the next state is going to be either we could move on. The next state from room F is going to be from F to the next state, which is not at all. Let it remain in state F. This is where we said we could like to have F as the next state. It is not required, so the state is going to be 0. Then if it is moving from F to E, that is also not something which is desirable. F to E is going to be through this. This is F, so F to E. And another option is it moves back to the original position, which is going to be F to B. So what we try to do is, though we have given gamma as 0.8, since we have already chosen F, the next state is not at all necessary. We have reached the goal. Let us terminate the algorithm. So now the value of Q of FF should be 0, unlike the previous case where we had kept, in the previous case when we are choosing from B to F, maybe if it was the second choice, we could have kept it at some value so that F gets chosen. But here, since it has already reached F, the state of the Q value of remaining in the same state with same action is going to remain at 0, and as a result, you would see your value is going to be 100 plus 0.8 into 0, which means none of these are going to be helpful for us for employment, or rather, we do not want any reasonable value from any of these actions. Since we don't want any reward from these actions, we have set it at 0, and thereby our final reward is 100. Because it has already reached F, B to F has got a reward of 100, which is already assigned to the previous state, so it is going to remain at 100. So this is what is going to be our first value of the Q table. We will go on for another episode wherein we will try to say that we will assume, instead of having a random initial state, here we will assume that D is going to be our initial state. So if we have D, we have from D, there is no possibility for us to go to F, so we can go from D to either B to C or to E. Please note, if we go to E, there is a possibility to go to F, or if we go to B also, there is a possibility to go outside, that means to reach at the boat. But if we go to C, we are likely to be trapped. Are we looking for this trapping? So naturally, the reward for that should be minimal, or sometimes we even use negative values so that that gets never executed. This is something which we normally do to avoid certain state executions. So randomly from D, we would like to choose B. If B is chosen, what would be the state? If B is chosen, we would have a condition where from B to F is going to be our next action. So it is going to be, the maximum action is going to be 100. We do not want to go to any other state, so our value is going to be 100. So once this is there in the B state, two possible values are possible, as you can see. These two possible values are going to be, one is either it can go to state D or it can go to state F. So since B to D could be having a better value, B to F could be given 100 as in the previous case. So we could give this value as 0.8 into 100, giving us the final value of 80. So our next value is a condition where D to B has got a value of 80. Anyway, based on this, we have come to certain conclusions after learning the Q algorithm. And one of the major conclusions is that when a robo moves, let us give it some priority of movement. That means let us give that particular action and that particular state more reward than other rewards. This is exactly what has been implemented in the basic TD learning, wherein we have tried to execute this particular algorithm and try to give priorities and choice of values based on that. So what is the algorithm that we have designed or fabricated for this particular application? Is going to be based on the various movements, and these various movements are naturally, it can move diagonal, it can move vertical forward, and it can move horizontal right, assuming that our source is at 3, 3. That means it is towards the right end of the starting point. We can designate the destination as right side of the source. So in that case, we can have the priority based or horizontal right. So we could have more reward when it moves, maximum reward when it moves diagonal, less reward when it goes forward, that to vertical forward, horizontal right, next reward, and as such we could develop a simple algorithm. And we also assume that the robo is prevented from moving backwards. That was an example which I was trying to mention, wherein I tried to say that let us try to avoid cases where it is going to be in a situation where the robo cannot come out, or it is getting locked in a room or something like that. So if such a situation happens, we could restrict it, and the main restriction is by not allowing the robo to move backwards. And another assumption that we have considered is we have also assumed that the robo obstacles are present in the center of the grid. Even if they are present at the edges, we have seen that suitable identification and obstacle avoidance is taking place in this particular example. So as we go on to the example of the simulation that has been implemented, I would like to present the basic simulation that has been carried out for the TD learning, which is a basic problem with the same source and the same destination which we had started out. That means 0, 0 and 3, 3. And we could see this is an example for no obstacle. This is with one obstacle. This is with two obstacles. This is with 3, 4, and 5. You would have seen that most of the cases which I have compared in the number of obstacles and with the same starting point have almost the same architecture. The reason is only here the grid has been changed. It has been increased to 5, 5 instead of the normal 4, 4. So you could take any grid size, you could take any starting point source, and you could have any destination. Your algorithm should work fine if you have designed your algorithm rightly. In case your algorithm is getting stuck, we need to think of ways to come out of it and designate it as perhaps a modified TD algorithm, which could be applied specifically to our problem of the robotic movement, which is either done on a single route or maybe larger number of routes. So the basic idea of this could be implemented because one of the examples that we have seen is compared to the other two algorithms, the time taken by the TD learning is very, very less. And one of the major performance indices that we would like to assign to the choice of an algorithm is time, as was mentioned in the earliest morning session. And with time as a criteria, we could see that it could be implemented in a simple industry for load carry. And it has been done using a Bluetooth app with the same embed controller and a Bluetooth module. App has been developed on Android. So how is it going to work? Let us just see this. The example is a slightly improved form of what we had considered as TD. It is for the SARSA algorithm, wherein we will see the state, the action, the reward, again the state and action once more considered, so that it is not having the drawback of the TD where it is getting unstable in some scenarios. So to avoid that, the SARSA has been considered, and the example that we are going to consider here is going to be a simple example where we are going to have 4 rooms, and of course the 4 rooms have been designated as grids, and we will see how the robot is going to move to each of the rooms. Sorry, the video was not playing. Just a second. So you could see what has been attempted at. We have got the Bluetooth, which has been designated by the Android. It is telling it to go to room 2, and based on that, it is going to the room 2. The same iRobo has been used. So we could see that this is room 2. It has been implemented with basic static obstacles. You can see that there are some static obstacles available at the 2 locations, and it is going to try avoiding this. You can see how nicely it is avoiding and moving diagonally, and naturally it will move diagonally till that point and reach the destination. So in room 2, the destination has been assigned as D2. So what you have seen in the implementation is a condition like this, wherein we keep the robot at the center. That's what you have seen. The robot moves to the second room and it tries to avoid obstacles. Various simulation examples have been shown where we have 3 obstacles, 2 obstacles like this, 3 obstacles like this, etc. That is, in cases where you have 3 obstacles like this, you would see that the basic TD algorithm may not be working too fine, but SARSA does work fine. So this is what is going to be an example with room 4. There also it could move with various number of obstacles. We have tried to consider 2 obstacles, 3 obstacles here, and finally 4 obstacles at this stage. Sorry, 5 obstacles in the last stage. So whatever may be our scenario, if the path planning algorithm is taking care of all the possible criteria or all the possible conditions that are likely to appear, it is not going to be difficult for us to decide the destination. So this is just a screenshot of example that has been the layout that has been used for the movement of the robo in 4 rooms. That means we have made a 16 by 16 grid, wherein 4 by 4 is used for each of the 4 rooms. And as you can see in the previous slide, the robo is kept at the starting point and it can move to either this end or it can move to the other end, where we have kept the general destination, which is the diagonally opposite to the starting point, and same thing here, the destination is there. So that is exactly what you have seen. So we move on to the next video, which is going to be an example for the implementation of the basic SARSA algorithm. You could see that here, as has been mentioned, we have got the Android-based app, and it is trying to tell what are the obstacle positions. Based on the sensing of the obstacle positions, you could see it is moving horizontal, then it is moving diagonal. And a dynamic obstacle has been introduced. You can see the leg being introduced suddenly, which means it was avoiding it and still it was moving. So the destination is in the other end. So you could see it should reach this particular point. That is what it tries to do. So based on the ZigBee communication, which has been given from the laptop, it is waiting for that communication. And you could see that that path is being followed on Python GUI. It's an 8x8 grid, wherein the various modules which have been used are also shown. And you could see the distance traveled is also being shown. So one idea that we have got is that the advantage of the SARSA algorithm or the TD algorithm or any form of the reinforcement algorithm is that we can designate the value of gamma to a particular state or to a particular action based on our choice, our priority. As I mentioned, in the case of a robo, the diagonal movement could be given the maximum priority and other movements could be given a lower priority, and it could be made to reach its destination. So we have gone in with the discussion of A-star, registrar, and the TD learning. We have tried to understand what is the reinforcement learning, which has a state, action, and reward concept. We have gone in detail to the TD learning, which is basically taking the previous state and calculating the next state. And we have seen some simulation examples and an example of a load carrying robo and a robo moving between 4 rooms as an example. So see, somebody has raised their hand. I'm not able to detect who it is. So that comes to the end of the reinforcement learning. We have more, like we could discuss the CNN, but before I go on to the CNN, I thought I should be discussing the concept of a multi-robo. The multi-robo that I'm discussing is having a simple concept, namely the master and slave. Maybe before I go on, any questions or any discussion points you would like to take up? Because I see a hand raised, I don't know whether unknowingly it has been raised. So can I proceed with my multi-robo? There seems to be no queries. Hello? Hello? So I proceed with the multi-robo scheme, which I would like to discuss. Is the screen visible? Yes? So we go on for the multi-robotic system, wherein we said a lot in the beginning about multi-robotic systems. We said that such systems are required by us for implementing better solutions and to make the system more rigid. So what we are going to consider is a simple two-robo example where we assume that the master robo or the more powerful robo has been chosen to take the responsibility to reach the destination. On the way, if it fails, what happens? This is similar to an example wherein one of us may try to take up a particular problem or a scenario and we may not reach that specific destination. So can we ask something else or somebody else to complete our work? This is exactly what is the simple multi-robotic system that I have attempted to discuss. I have not gone into more serious robotic systems like communication between homogeneous and heterogeneous systems, implementations with such systems, and other complicated issues that are associated with multi-robotic system. So as I mentioned, I assume that there are two robots in a system. Both of them are asked to reach the destination point. One of the robots is placed at one point. It is chosen because it is got maybe better robustness. And in case the first robot is going to fail, we ask the second robot to take up. This is what is going to be the simple example of the multi-robotic system that we are going to discuss. So if we go on pictorially to this is how it looks like. So here we have an example of a multi-robo system. We go back to the same 4x4 grid which we had discussed in the beginning of our presentation. Only difference is that this robo is designed to reach the destination. Naturally, this robo could be chosen also because it is also going to use the same two locations. So due to some reason, maybe better robustness as I had claimed or better communication ability, whatever it may be, we assume that the first robo is likely to reach the destination in a better manner than this particular robo. So in a multi-robotic system, the first thing that we need to do is who's going to start the task. So here it has been designated that This particular robot will start the task. At some point of time, in case it fails, it will communicate to the other robot that it has failed, it may have reached only till that, and then let this particular robot take up and let it try to deliver the final destination. So in such a case, what we try to say is that it may be similar to the case of, we had mentioned that parcel delivery system could be an example that could be executed by a robot. I think now we also have restaurants which are being served by robots instead of waiters. So under such a case, let us assume that the restaurant has got an important guest who has arrived at the restaurant, and one of the robots is trying to do the work of the waiter by giving the food that has been ordered by that important guest. But what happens midway, maybe due to some mechanical failure or electronics failure or even a software failure, the robot stops in between. We know failures are not something which we can decide or what we can think of. So if that robot does not reach the destination, can we ask another robot to take up its place? It is not able to fulfill its task. Why can't we ask the other robot to take up? And it is this particular concept we call as multi-robotic path planning or multi-robotic systems, wherein it's popularly called as MRS, wherein we ask this robot to take over and reach the destination. So this is one of the problems that we are going to consider in our example here. So one of the basic methods of implementation of such an algorithm is going to be using fuzzy. So we are going to make use of a simple fuzzy logic controller. Most of the participants, I believe, are aware of how the fuzzy works. Most of you know that it is the simplest AI technique that can be implemented, especially if it is mapped with suitable membership functions. You could see that its delivery rate or its success rate is much more than its other counterparts in the AI. Anyway, I'm not going on for the discussion of why I have chosen a fuzzy. It is just by mere coincidence that I have taken up the fuzzy, and here I have given three specific inputs. These three specific inputs are the distance of the obstacle or the destination with respect to the left wheel, right wheel, and the front wheel. And a fourth input has also been considered, namely the angle to the target. And based on these inputs, the velocity of the wheels of the robot are supposed to be set. This is exactly what is going to be the methodology of the workflow, or the methodology in which the FLC or the fuzzy logic controller has been designed. So let us move on to how this particular design is going to take place. The first step in the case of fuzzification is formulation of various fuzzy rules, and you would see that the fuzzy rules could be based on the inputs, namely the distance to the left obstacle termed as distance left, distance to the right obstacle termed as distance right, distance to the front obstacle, distance front, and the angle difference to the target, namely angle target. And the final outputs of such a fuzzy controller, as we have seen in the previous case, could be the respective velocity of the left and right wheel. Once we are done with the wheels, what do we do next? We need some results which could be done, and for this we have used the fuzzy method named Sugino, wherein we are taking these four inputs and we are getting a fuzzified output for the left velocity and the right velocity of the wheels. We could use various membership functions with various shapes. It has been worked out to analyze various membership functions, and what was seen in the specific case of the iRobot with this particular inputs was that we could get quite good results with around 24 fuzzy rules, and we had used various variables, membership functions, namely near, far for the left distance and the right distance and the front distance, and the output of the velocity were slow, mid, fast, and various versions of fast and various versions of slow, namely L fast and L slow. And the angle which we had considered were whether it is on the left side, whether it is on the front side, or whether it is on the right side. So based on these rules, we could see that we could apply a simple defalsification mechanism wherein what we would have attempted is we would apply the weight W1 and we would apply it to various values of Z1, Z2, Z3, which are actually the defalsified values which lie between 0 to 1, and apply the weighted average method using Sugino inference system. We did make a comparison between Sugino inference system and Mandani, and we found that Sugino is much better. That is why Sugino has been shown for the discussion. And once it is specified, we could see that we could have the various rules with various values, and you could see that the velocities are also changing based on the various positions of the obstacles. Basically, what is going to be the flowchart for such a discussion? The basic idea of the flowchart is going to be that we have the three inputs from the three ultrasonic sensors. You have been seeing the three ultrasonic sensors placed on the three positions of the iRobot, namely the left side, right side, and the front side. We could take the inputs from the three ultrasonic sensors. So we would be getting the distance from the obstacle or the distance which we need to move. Then we need to classify that using fuzzy rules. And the fuzzy rules that we could apply could be specifically any fuzzy rule that could be of our choice. And as mentioned, I said that we could use 24 fuzzy rules, defuzify it, and we could make the robot to move to the specific location, see whether it has reached the destination. Otherwise, let it start to calculate the path again from the present situation and recalculate the angle difference to the target. So initially, when it is calculating the angle difference of the target, it can move to the starting position, and we would assume that it is generally going to be 45 degrees. So with this particular distance, it would try to calculate and it would try to move. As you can see here, in various steps, starting from this position, it will move to this particular position, and so on up to the destination. So here we have a case where the basic formula that has been used to calculate the angle is going to be A cos 45 and A sin 45. Based on this, we have calculated the distance, arrived at the distance, and seen that it is able to track the destination in the right manner. So moving on to how are we going to implement the hardware for such an example. So if we are going to implement the hardware for such an example, we will perhaps start from the master robot trying to always communicate with the destination. So communication is going to be a major part for master and slave, and in this particular case, especially in multi-robotic system, we need to assume that the communication does not fail. So we need to make use of hardware components if at all we are going to really implement a system of a multi-robotic type with modules which are not likely to fail. So here we are going to ask the master robot to move towards the destination and keep on sending a status signal to the slave robot or the second robot, which is actually doing nothing and it is simply in rest. And the slave robot continuously keeps on receiving the signal sent by the master robot. And in case the master robot does not operate due to some problems, maybe battery drain or mechanical failure, any such problem, it tells its state or it tells the slave robot to take over. This is what I had mentioned. This is the implementation flow which I was explaining in the beginning of my discussion. So this is basically one of the major things that we require when we want to implement a robot-to-robot communication using Wi-Fi. Let us assume here, as an example, that both the robots are going to move. Let it be a simultaneous movement or one robot moving and stopping and the second robot taking over. There could be various situations that are likely to appear because We are not able to say when the robo will stop and when it will ask the second robo to take over. When such a situation happens, we would assume that the robo R1 is designated to move to D3 and the robo R2 is designated to move to D4. This is possibly a condition where communication becomes more important than the simple master slave which we had tried there. So, in multi robotics, in addition to the basic problem of making use of more than one robot, the communication algorithm is also becoming significant because in case we are going to make use of independent case where one robot moves to destination D3 and another robot tries to move to destination D4, even under such a case, we would be having lot of problems. Let us try to analyze one of such problems that is likely to appear. Let us assume that the robo R1 moves from this position to this and it reaches this position. So you could see that it is placed in this position. Similarly, let us assume robo R2 moves from this position, it goes to this location and it also reaches this position. So please understand the two robots are at point where one of them, whichever moves, it is likely to hit. So this is a major problem that is discussed in communication aspects, and it could be solved using various types of decision algorithms, and some of the popular decision algorithms that we could use are naturally simple machine learning algorithms, and one of the best solutions for such a simple Wi-Fi communication could be decision tree. So what happens during such a case? So let us see here. The next movement of either Robo 1 or Robo 2 is going to result in what you call as a conflict of the two robots, and this is something which is not appreciated. We would like to have, when two more than one robot is involved, we would like to have lot of cooperation between the robots. And in order to have that, maybe when the two robots are now communicating, and Robo 1 is likely to move, so it is asking the second robot to stop as indicated by the hand signal, and Robo 1 is going to move to the destination, and once it crosses this location, it will communicate that it has completed its danger zone, because the danger zone is J2, wherein both the robots are likely to come and hit each other. We do not want a collision between robots. We are trying to do obstacle avoidance, and we do not want one more problem from the multi-robotic side, namely the collision of robots. So if we want to avoid the collision of robots, definitely what we need to do is, as we have considered here, signal needs to be applied to the second robot, asking that robot to stop, and this robot moves and reaches the destination, followed by, once it has reached this location, it may communicate with this robot, and this robot may also move it. Or it may be using a path planning algorithm where it can avoid this location and move directly to this particular location and try to move to the destination. So another example is also shown wherein we will try to say that a second case is being analyzed wherein we assume that now the destination has been slightly varied. We want the robo R1 to move to D2 and we want the robo R2 to go to D1. Let us try to understand that we are not going to consider a case where both the robots are starting simultaneously. We may take a case, because so many cases are possible in multi-robotics. One case is what I have tried to design here, and we will see that R2 would move from here to here. It starts first, it moves to this location, it moves to this location, and it finally reaches this location, and it even comes to this particular location. So when it reaches this particular location, you would see that there is a condition where both the robots are likely to move here and we are likely to get another collision example. So synchronization between robots is another problem that is likely to happen. Communication is one option, synchronization is another option, wherein best example of robo would be that most of the distributed computing principles or computer network principles that most of us have studied need to be employed in order to avoid such a robo collision. What can we do? It is just like, let us assume two people are traveling in a passage and we are trying to meet each other. when it is a narrow passage, and if it is a narrow passage, it is likely that, let us assume a simple example, where two people are likely to travel through this, and it is very difficult for this two people to travel through it. So what we would try to say is, let one of the persons move, reach the destination, then let the other person move and reach the destination. The same is the example of this particular robot. That means we do not want both the robots to end up in a collision and entirely spoil the effect of multi-robo system. We need to always remember that we have gone in for a multi-robotic system, thinking that a complex task and a complex structure of a single robot could be avoided by either simplifying the structure of the two robots and also maybe dividing the task between robots. Various reasons could be there for taking up the multi-robotic example as we have seen in the beginning. So one major issue that is likely to happen is a lack of communication, and we could see that here there was a possibility of a lack of communication, and if such a lack of communication happens and one of our wireless module fails, we are aware what is going to be the possibility. It is going to end up in a collision of robots. We can also consider the last case, which is going to be a case where the Robo 1 reaches D5 and the Robo 2 reaches D6. So here, just like in the previous case, we do not assume that both the robots start simultaneously. We assume Robo 1 alone starts, it reaches. We're not even going to think of a failure case. We're going to assume that it may be a load carrying uh, robo, or it may be a parcel delivery robo, which is likely to start from here and reach this location. Similarly, this robo may start from here and reach this location. So here, when it starts from here, it moves to the next location, keeps on moving, and we could see that it reaches this particular location. When it reaches this particular location, it is possible that both the robots are likely to hit. So here, what we have given the preference, because robo 2 is starting late, maybe we could put an algorithm thereby, or because R2 is closer to the destination than R1, we could think of such an algorithm where R2 is likely to move and reach the destination. And we are asking the robo R1 to make a stop here, or what you call enter the wait state. Entering this wait state is popularly called as avoiding the situation of deadlock between robots or between obstacles, which is likely to happen very much in the multi-robotic systems. So you could see a simple example of the two robots. Since we had two robots, the power bank was not enabled. It was powered by the embedded controller was powered with the computer itself. So you could see how the two robots are trying to move in and trying to reach the destination. You could also see a simple screenshot of a robot which is implemented on almost a similar background with the starting point and the destination, and you could see that an obstacle is placed. Maybe once this robot has reached a particular state, this robot takes over and it tries to reach the destination. Midway shot has been placed here to make us aware that such a communication is quite possible. So as I mentioned, CNN is just the scope of my future discussion. I am not intending to put it in this particular presentation, but a lot of work has also been done on the CNN side, and other algorithms using multi-robotic have also been attempted, like the RNN and even the same algorithms that we have done. And before I conclude and present my references, I would like to thank almost 7 or 8 of my students who have worked relentlessly in these robots with various algorithms and tried to give me a lot of enlightenment and ideas to move on to the next stage. So I would like to acknowledge my institute for giving me all the hardware facilities for implementing the work, and for always supporting me in my endeavors. As also I thank my various MTech students, Ramya, Laya, Devika, Roni, Divya, Sandeep, and Parvati. I also thank all my participants for listening to lecture. I know as we as faculty are used to giving lectures, listening to it is not that easy, and I have taken a lot of technical algorithms wherein I have tried to explain the concepts to the best of my ability. I thank you all for for your patient hearing, and I hope that in case you are interested to take up any future work in this area, and if in case you require any support, if at all it is possible from my end, I may try to give you. You may contact me at my email p_supriya@cb.amrita.edu. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Any
ma'am.
discussions? If any discussions or queries are there, I am ready to take up. Yeah.
So participants, if you have any query, you can ask, ma'am. I think there is no question from the participant side, ma'am. Okay, thank you. So, on behalf of Sri Ishwar College of Engineering and Department of EEE, I thank Dr. P. Supriya ma'am for accepting our invitation and handling the session in an extraordinary way. The topic what you have taught today was very much interesting, and we learned research-oriented things from your presentation, madam. We hope that many researchers will get the benefit by your valuable lecture. So thank you so much for spending your valuable time with us, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
So, dear participants, thank you for attending the session 2. Session 3 will start as per the schedule. Thank you all.
Sir, what about the feedback link, sir?
So, wait a minute, sir. I'll post it in the chat box. There is a power issue, right? So, wait a minute, sir. I'll post it. Sir, I have posted, sir. I have posted the feedback link in the chat box.